I always feel like Big Brother or Big Sister is talking to me when I hear that thing. But anyway, hello, folks. Welcome to another Friday afternoon Ideal cohort meeting. Next week, we have Jeffrey Lancaster from Dell Technologies. He's going to give us a talk on deep fakes and other sort of nefarious uses of digital technologies, just as a sort of counterbalance to all the wonderful things we've been talking about with digital resources. And it's a very interesting talk. I heard him speak at EDUCAUSE, and he's not going to give exactly the same talk, but there are going to be many similar elements. So I think you'll really enjoy that next week. But this week, you'll probably enjoy it even more because we have the one, the only Lindsay Vago with us. And Lindsay was a member of the second cohort. And I think if you know Lindsay, you know that everything she does is exemplary. Not to put any pressure on you, Lindsay, or anything, but anyway, I think you're going to learn a lot today from her on what she learned in Ideal and how she's applying it to her courses. And Lindsay has asked me to tell you that if you want to go ahead and interrupt her as she's speaking while she's doing her presentation, that is okay. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Vago.
Okay, let me just go ahead and share my screen. So yeah, so as Paul mentioned, you are more than welcome to interrupt me at any time and let me know if you have questions or if the information I'm flying through is or isn't working for you. So please feel free to interrupt. So part of this presentation I'm sharing with you, I had created for another meeting. So I might speak a little bit more on some of these pieces than on others. So the meeting I presented kind of what was happening for myself in the Ideal classroom and how it affected me as a professor. So I did this presentation purposefully on Sway just to give a perspective of what else is out there besides PowerPoint. So you can kind of see this is my Sway presentation. So just a little bit about me. I think I know a lot of you guys, but I teach in our health science program. I primarily teach kinesiology and assessment and prescription of fitness. And my background is as a physical therapist. So I've worked in our Manchester PT program since about 2000, I want to say, 2010, sorry, 2010. And when it was in the Concord, before it was in Manchester. So I have some deep roots at Franklin Pierce. I got what they call a transitional doctorate degree from Franklin Pierce when it was still Franklin Pierce College. So that was a little bit ago. So some of the ways that I've used different aspects that I've learned about Ideal in the classroom is created embedded assignments. Or kind of enriched my test. I'll start with that part first. So I realized too with this transition that we had going from a true in-person class to one that needed to accommodate students also in a remote atmosphere, but I wanted to create my Canvas page that had more in-depth content in it. So this is just a screenshot of one of my courses. Where I did use YouTube videos or created my own videos and uploaded those to YouTube. And then definitely created more in-depth content on Canvas. So I used Canvas as kind of a technology platform that I could have my students use. So I took better advantage of it. One of the kind of assignments that I had done with my freshman students. So in FYI, first year inquiry, which is that fall freshman class that all of our first year students are in, was an assignment for them to all get to know each other. So they needed to create an infographic, so a visual representation of themselves that what I did was I compiled them all and then scrolled through and shared them for everyone in the class. So it wasn't that, I didn't bring one up and say, this is Lindsay Vago. I just brought them up and we all looked at what was in them and people made awesome comments. Like on this one, people were really excited about food. Food seemed to be a big topic. and shopping. So we tried to put non-identifiable factors in here. I'm sure that's the student here, but again, you can't really tell that. So in a kind of the first week of that class, they were sharing some aspects about themselves. They put in obviously things they really enjoyed. We have the Patriots in there and music and this really cute sloth. And then it also gave me an idea of how they were as a student. Are they those organized kind of students? This one went to the extreme and made sure everything was well outlined. Or were they the kind that just had a lot of stuff they wanted to collage and put together and they barely had any space to fit everything on their pages that they liked? So it just gave us a starting point for some discussions and communication amongst the students. It was a way for them to start kind of using and manipulating different aspects or finding different ways to represent themselves. So in my upper level class, it's assessment and prescription of fitness. I have an assignment where students, it's about halfway through this semester, students have to create a video that includes 6 different functional steps for strengthening. We talk about a couple different platforms they can use, and the students here decided to use Adobe Spark. I've had other students use PowerPoint, and some of them use kind of like an iMovie kind of setup. And I let them have free form of what they want to pick. If it's a technology that I haven't dabbled with, we'll talk about how to probably make that piece work. But I'm just going to play a little bit of this so you can kind of see what the students did. Now, these are my health science students. So many of them haven't had exposure to, or vast exposure to technology related courses and stuff like that, like digital media design. So I think this is pretty impressive that the health science students took this avenue to do it. Hit play.
While lying supine, start with your arms at your sides. Clients will move arms in a sweeping motion, keeping them parallel to the floor until they reach 90 degrees. While sitting in a chair, place a resistance band under your feet and raise arms out to the side. Remember to keep hands facing down and to not go past 90 degrees.
So I won't make you watch the whole thing, but again, these are Marissa was the student that did this project, and she had a fellow classmate kind of be her model through the video itself. But again, there were some requirements to this, and I think I pulled up that assignment so I can show you that in a few minutes, kind of what those requirements are. And I had this past winter tested out doing Intro to Health Science as a winter term course, and just to see what how it fit into perhaps an online format. And one of the things we talked about significantly and ideal was looking at credible sources. It's a great starting point for students also when they're looking at doing finding out legitimate resources to use to cite sources. So we did a module specific to that right in Intro to Health Science, which fit perfect in the topic. I really tried to pull from the DePietro library some of the facts they already had on there and created an assignment where students needed to explore different aspects on that library page. And then this, there's also a quiz that they end up taking for that. So I tried to pull off some aspects that I knew were strong threads for our health science program, finding credible resources and ones that aligned well that we re-emphasized with IDEAL. So some of the aspects about kind of myself, my own learning process, there was an opportunity, it was in 2018, for students to go from the Ringe campus to the Manchester campus. And I was super proud of myself. I created this poster. I'm gonna just click on it. Oh, not there. I'll click here so you can see it up close. So I created this poster. I was like, great. I used a word cloud. I was like, I'll put some stuff in here. I pieced everything together with all the details. I thought it looked pretty good. I ended up doing this, I think it was on a Word document. So it was my old school version of like cut out the articles and stick them together, the pieces, and kind of photocopy it. But it was something that I could send out to faculty, I could send out to students. It was an electronic version. And I'll be honest, I think this came, trying to remember the format that I had done it on, but again, this was the second time that, or the following year, that we ended up sending out students, and I realized my technology or my visual presentation could be significantly better enhanced. And so some of the different tools we looked at with Ideal, again, this is not a Word document, so I was able to create something that was definitely poster size. It had a better visual appeal to it. It still had the information I needed, and in its electronic version, not in this version. You can click and it brings you right to a survey where the students can kind of sign themselves up for the trip. So just to kind of give you an idea of different aspects, how Ideal kind of just changed resources and tools that I could personally use, and kind of not just in the classroom. And then the last aspect was really talking about OER, the open educational resources. And I think in the world of science, when I went to school, I graduated with those big, thick textbooks. I'll be honest, I think my biology textbook still has the plastic covering on it, but I have saved it for 20 something plus years. However, I want my students to also find ways to dive into research or researching their own ideas or researching information that comes out. And that plastic textbook, if I took the plastic off of it finally, unfortunately, I think some of that stuff would be outdated, or there'd be some new information in there that I would hope I could have some new information that would enhance what's already in there. And that's what I want my students to do. I want them to find ways, probably through technology, to find those resources. So some of our open educational resources get updated routinely, and that's really helpful and important for our students to have those kind of lifelong resources. And again, please feel free to interrupt, type in the chat. I'll be honest, sometimes I'll check the chat to see if there's anything hiding in there, so I never mind if you have a question. I'm just going to show you in my assessment and prescription of fitness class. So this is the assignment the students had. And again, I don't have a specific requirement for which technology they might use to create the video, but they have a very structured 6 steps they have to complete and fill in that's specific to whatever I assign them for a body part or motion. And then I give the students an example, and it's the same video that you guys just saw, but I give the students an example of that assignment. So they kind of have an idea of what the end result might look like. And I was pretty impressed this time around. We had quite a few students that had some really in-depth videos on that and used a variety of tools, which is always nice. And then I usually embed that with accompany that with a pretty good rubric in some aspects. And some of it does have to do with presentation. So I'm, being really clear and concise in each of their steps is important for me. But it was definitely a way for me to use technology to pull it in the class. And then we actually share these for everyone on one day. So sometimes 2 days, depending on how long everyone's videos are. But it gives the students the ability to kind of see each other's work. And I think that's helpful too. Okay, let's hide it into my Zoom tabs here. So the next page I wanted to show you was my kinesiology class. So I chose to do this as in a page format versus modules. For me, it kind of represented as if it was pages in the book. So under each of my pages, again, this is, I use different aspects that Canvas had to help better enrich my class, or I used aspects of creating my own videos. So I think I have some, maybe this isn't the best page, but some of my more recent, for the chapters we're currently on now, have a little bit more of my own personal videos. And mostly it's video related. content, different things I created, or snippets of PowerPoint presentations that I traditionally voice over. So for each one of our modules and units, a lot of the content is already here and visible for students. And when I mentioned in FYI, besides doing the kind of video infographic, the visual representation of themselves, I have opted to also include video reflections, which I find really important, especially this past fall when all of our students are trying to adapt to a campus life that needed to accommodate COVID and some of our social distancing, obviously those restrictions. I wanted to be able to kind of touch base with them one-on-one. So I usually give my students a very specific prompt that I want them to talk to me about. And I'm just gonna click over here. So this is the assignment that I opened it up. So I require the students to actually do a video submission. And I won't play hers because sometimes they get into some more personal discussions of what's going on. But it gives me the opportunity, I could choose to respond back by video, or in this case, I responded back by text. But it also gave me the opportunity to kind of see the whole person. It's really nice to not feel like they're hiding behind a mask or I'm hiding behind a mask in that aspect. So that was nice. And then it got a chance for me to touch base with them more personally. And the student was super excited. It's maybe the second week of school, and she's getting a chance to meet new friends and really make deeper connections. She's also on a sports team, so that was really nice to actually connect with her on that level. And again, there's other aspects that I know you've talked about in Ideal, like Flipgrid, I believe, would be another video kind of format where you could do that or share it with each other if that was kind of a discussion or a tool you wanted to use. Let's see what else. So talking about OER, I realized this past year I ended up applying for the Ideal for either using an OER resource or modifying a resource that's currently out there. So I'm just gonna sneak over. So it is for my assessment and prescription of fitness class. Was kind of what I was put out my request for, really looking to accompany that with actually with my kinesiology class. I figured I was on the wrong page. And just look to create some kind of lab manual or modify some stuff that's out there. And in my investigation of what was out there for kinesiology was pretty minimal as far as OER sources that are out there. There's lots of research articles and lots of information that I could use, but they kind of weren't in the educational format so much. But I will get a chance to modify a few different kind of lab manuals that are out there that I can use for our hands-on lab component. In the world of kinesiology, though, Katie Beth was helpful. I looked into what was out there in those OER formats for textbooks, because I'd like to venture into, and this is my page to hopefully create a kinesiology textbook. I've flagged Katie Beth to help me edit stuff in here, and this was just our first adventure to adding some components that we actually started this past fall or tinkered with. And then I collaborated with a few other fellow kinesiologists and to help them or help me edit or put content on here. And they're from a couple different universities. So we're hoping with a collaborative effort, we can create a textbook kind of focused around kinesiology and adding some pieces. But in the world of press books, we couldn't find, Katie Beth was helpful, we couldn't find a kinesiology textbook at all that had any deep material. They seem to have maybe one or two aspects about kinesiology. So there were some limited resources in that aspect. I don't know if you guys have questions about anything I've shared so far. maybe I've thrown a lot at you, or kind of just how I've used some of the resources so far. Yeah, Jenny, I think that's true. Seeing the students' faces is really helpful. Um, um, you had 10 days remote, yeah. For me, the FYI, being able to connect with them face to face was critical. And my FYI classroom only accommodated half the students at a time. So I'm only really seeing them once a week, because it was kind of half on a Monday, half on a Wednesday, and our Friday was, let's see, like, could we get a different group in, or did we do everything remote that day? So we had some different options for our Fridays.
Lindsay, can you talk about how your students have reacted to the digital components that you've added to your courses?
Yeah, sure. So the kinesiology class, like my health science students have to take kinesiology before they take assessment and prescription of fitness. So in kinesiology, they have two different assignments. One is in the middle of the term, it's a traditional kind of stand up in front of the class and present to me about a topic. And a lot of them gravitate towards PowerPoint. A couple of them will use like Google Slides to present. And then the second project at the end of the year, it needs to be an entire canned presentation. We just don't have any more time in this semester for them to come up face to face. So it has to be an entire canned presentation. So that's when they start to learn, at least in my classes, about using maybe something that has a video feature to it. Because a specific component in that includes they need to demonstrate motion of either motion of running or of walking or of jumping in that course. So that's when they start to create a video, or maybe record something small and embed it into that PowerPoint or embed it into those Google Slides. And then that entire piece in PowerPoint needs to play itself. So we talked about how to link all of those pieces together. So myself as the professor, I can just hit the button and whoosh, off it goes all at once. So they voice over the slides if they need to, and they have that kind of video piece in it. And then when they come to my kinesiology class, they have the midterm project they have to do that has those 6 steps. And really, that's a consistent video for the most part. They have some pieces they put in with some text, and a lot of it has some voice description to it. Again, some of my students are super comfortable and they do the whole thing in a very high quality format. And others, it's 6 individual slides. They take 6 individual videos of themselves doing a fitness exercise, and they piece that together in different formats. Like PowerPoint allow that to happen kind of smoothly, and I'm more familiar with that, so I can help guide them through it. But I find a lot of the times the students are helping each other on those projects, and I think that gives them the ability to really feel like they know a piece of information their fellow peer needs to learn. And so we have some class discussion in that aspect. So there's a lot of kind of sharing of skill sets that the other student might not yet have learned or have tried. And as you could see from Marissa's video, she wasn't the one in it. So a lot of times they pair up and work with each other. So they're seeing how each other is putting those pieces together.
Okay.
So that's really nice in my upper level classes, the kinesiology part and the assessment and prescription of fitness. I've tried to pair those two up to work well together in content they learn and as they move forward.
Lindsay, I don't know if you've seen Shally's question. Have you run into problems from letting the students choose their own platform for videos or for presentations?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I get the 11 o'clock at night. I can't make this work. I'm a pretty easygoing person. It's not the creation of the video for me that's the true content of the course, but it's a means to present. And I think in the world of healthcare, most of my students are going off to healthcare. You will be presenting either one-on-one to your patient or to a larger group of people. So you need to find a way to do that. So when my student freaks out, I just say, send me your 6 videos and send me a voiceover somehow, or talk it all out to me in one Google slide. I get it. You didn't prepare enough to be able to present this the way you want. But perhaps your content is all there. So yeah, sometimes we just don't have enough time in the day, where the students didn't have enough forethought to test it out ahead of time and see if their stuff works. And Shelley, I've had them go on the other end where they use this program that the content is so large, it takes forever to upload it on Canvas. I had one student who had to bring in her boyfriend's laptop because it was on the laptop and had to play it. So I get it. But that's a learning experience for them to realize they don't have to go over the top. They can use their smartphone, create some little video clips, put them all together, and find a way to kind of present their ideas. I have used this concept too with my honors students. So a lot of my honors students have gotten the habit that I like to see videos and I like to see a presentation, like a final project like this. So a lot of my honors students gravitate towards writing a paper and accompanying it with some kind of video.
Yeah, that Adobe Spark video that you showed, if cohort members, if you haven't tried Adobe Spark Video, it's really a cool tool to use, and it's very simple. So that would be a nice thing. It's easy to make a professional looking and sounding presentation with Adobe Spark Video. So I would really recommend that one.
And again, my students are not, none of them are in digital media design or advertising of any sorts. So a lot of the sound in the background, it's probably the free stuff you can pick right off with a Spark. I'm sure it leads you to it. Any extra pictures, they're gonna lead you right to the ones you can use that are appropriate to use for content. So those aspects are really kind of nice. I guess for the larger part for me was realizing where my students are at and what they need and how I can make them a better person to move forward in the future. So for me, it was realizing that my students, they dabble on technology. A lot of them just watch lots of YouTube videos and TikTok stuff. So they're used to clicking buttons and they don't mind experimenting on technology, way more comfortable than I am at doing it. And so they don't mind dabbling and trying it out. I do get a few that's not their thing, but I think that also gives them some insight ahead of time. Yeah. Have you guys tried, I really am enjoying the kind of the video features that Canvas has. I don't know if you've used that or tried that at all. I enjoy that. I have started in some cases responding back to my students with videos of myself, so I don't have to sit here and type everything. And I usually have been responding back to their videos with a video of myself. I kind of like that piece.
I think Frank's used that technique a lot too, right, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Perfect. And I don't know, again, my FYI class is set up best for that kind of communication with students, that intimate communication in a like one-on-one video. But when my students get a chance to do a really large project for like a midterm or a final, and if they are using a video kind of feature of some sorts, I like to respond back in that format.
What video feature in Canvas are you talking about?
Let me see if I can pull up my page and see if I can find anything that I could.
Catherine, when you're in the assignments, you'll see a little media button. It looks like a play button. And
Okay.
if you click it, it opens up your camera automatically, and then you just talk into it like this.
Yeah, let me see if I can
It saves
find.
me a lot of writing. I mean,
That's the coolest part to it, is that it does save the writing, and it definitely gets you. It's obviously a different way to kind of respond. Let's see if I can find one to kind of show you, Catherine. But yeah, it's not tricky. It's pretty easy. It counts down for you in Canvas too. So at least that's what I remember of it. So kind of prepares you that what's coming next in that part. I might be a little slow at finding what I could show you, but maybe not. Maybe I'll find it here. Yeah, I think that does it. Let me just show you. I'm gonna hit speed. Now you guys can see how far behind I might be on my grading of assignment. But here I am, people. So Catherine, it's right down in here, this media comment. So I could click. I don't think it'll let me do it because I'm on. It won't do the video piece just because I'm on Zoom right now. But you can see that it's trying to pick up my audio. When I'm ready, I can just hit record. And then it'll go ahead and the video would show up right here and record that piece. You could upload an individual ones if I chose to do it on my own phone, that's fine. But it'll do it right here and pick it right up, and it's pretty easy. It counts it right down for you.
I don't know, that could be pretty dangerous. It could be like, what were you thinking? That's
Usually
awful.
my first comment starts off, wow, that was really interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Really worked hard at that.
Yeah, I liked your creativity. Let's
You
talk
can
about
start over. I mean, if you say something bad, you can start over as many times you like, and you could delete it too.
Frank's right. You can start over many times, or I don't know, an error in, as you're commenting, as long as, when I drop something or say something a little funny, I don't think it's ever bad to show your personality off sometimes. Makes them feel a little bit more connected to you. And my spelling is horrendous, so maybe you've picked up on some spelling issues, which my students love to find. It's always an adventure. I should give out bonus points. So, but when I speak back to them, I don't have to worry about the typing part. So, yeah. So I don't know. I know it's about 4:30 or so. I know Paul wanted to make sure there's opportunities for questions, but in the big scope of things, I wanted to be able to kind of show you what I'm using. The aspects really for me are creating some kind of visual project that they can do. I do have a student that has done more than one honors project with me now. So she has a small pile of different stuff she's done in my classes and then as honors projects. So she's realizing that it's kind of nice to have a tangible item when you're done besides a piece of paper, she's enjoying having those.
And Lindsay has populated her Canvas, her page on the Ideal Canvas course page with lots of examples from her students as well. So that's a good resource for you to look at to get some ideas.
And Shelley, the high flex part has actually gone really well. Kinesiology has a lot of content to it. It's kind of like anatomy and physics had a baby together. So there's a lot of movement and body part pieces and more than what they learned in anatomy. And I want them to then remember everything they learned in anatomy. So I'm finding that the high flex kind of, I give them lots of content. It does accompany a textbook that aligns well with each page I've created. But every page, or view it as a chapter from a textbook, probably has about 4 or 5 quizzes that they take. And those quizzes, I'll just share again, because if I'm talking, you might as well see something more than my face. Those pages, like this one, let me go to another page. Those pages have multiple quizzes to them. So that part is nice. I might have some kind of resource for them, some anatomical components in each of these quizzes that they can take. I think I made it so they can take it twice. At least I want them to learn the content from it. And then I usually create a video of some sorts and another quiz. Again, it's all reusable semester to semester, which is really nice. And then I have a section, a chart they have to fill in for the muscles. And then this is the part that we do in class, and this is the reflective activity. So they all get to usually see the assignment ahead of time, and this is the part that we spend the time in class going over. So there's probably about, there's opportunities for them to share, like in this assignment, they need to post, and sometimes they need to read and respond to a peer's post. and we talk about, then I know that there's gonna be some stuff to talk about in class. And then we talk about each one of these. In this case, it was different cervical injuries that might happen, or different medical issues related to the cervical spine. So I've enjoyed that kind of class setup. I still end up having my lab, which is awesome. But that also is a little tricky with some of our Zoom students. But yeah, the flexed classroom, I'm really enjoying with kinesiology. I haven't gone that in depth with it with my assessment and prescription of fitness class.
What are some ideas that you're hoping to employ in the future, Lindsay, in addition to those you've already used?
So I think I'd like to, again, I'm right now kind of free form, let them pick whatever platform you want to use. And I'm finding that class to class and term to term, I have to re-explain them. So I know for myself, I need to create a module of how to use this for my purpose. So I think that that's one of those things moving forward, that I could create some kind of Canvas module or Sway page that walks them through how to use PowerPoint to do their video, how to use this, so I don't have to spend as much class time and can give them a resource they could go back and look at forever. I'm also realizing though that they don't have access to their Canvas page, I believe, from term to term. Is that the case? Okay. So
Well, they could have it if you leave the endpoint open, they can always have access to it.
Okay. So yeah, Frank, that's always my fear is I'd forget to keep leaving them open. But I think I'm going to create like a consistent Sway page that I always put stuff on and then just always link them to it. So a resource that they could go back to at any time and look. And I'm not sure if I'll do something Sway or something else related, but some kind of resource they can go back to and look, and that I could reference from, be it whatever class. So I know for the future, that's really where I want to go, is create something that fits my course needs, that directs them to maybe 2 or 3 different sources like that.
Let me ask you something on the Sparks. Do the students set them to public so people can see them in the Adobe Exchange area or the Adobe area?
That's a good question, Frank. We haven't really done that. They just usually submit them to me on the assignment. So I don't go into like the public section to get their pieces, but that is definitely something we've talked about, because some of them have realized they can find their peer stuff and others can't, when they were kind of surfing around to create their own. So yeah, that's, I know you've mentioned that before, that's a good option, or could be an option.
Well, also, if they set it to public, it sort of easily satisfies something in the rubric about, in digital citizenship, participating positively in the digital realm and stuff like that. And that's a positive contribution. People could find stuff like that.
Yeah.
I could have used it when I shattered my shoulder. So,
Yeah, some of the students have been realizing they put their videos through YouTube, just because it's easier to share than that YouTube link with me. And they've been realizing that they don't have to use YouTube just for all the fun stuff. They can use it for course content. So that's what I have for you, at least what I've done, kind of what I've used, the pieces that I found to be more beneficial or have fit in my content world the best. There's things I've tried to dabble with that I thought would be really cool. Either Chris or Frank, maybe one of you guys remember, it had to almost do with like a timeline. Like you could look through things, like I think you guys described it before. What was that called?
Either like Timeline JS or Tiki-Taki.
Yeah, I think it was the Tiki-Taki. And I thought, oh, cool. Instead of a timeline, I could do like a body part. Like they could start at the head and move down. And it just was a format that I thought could be cool. And then the more I got into it, I realized it didn't match what I needed as well. So there's been things I've dabbled with on my own and been like, I got to throw this out. It's not going to work for what I need. But yeah.
Lindsay, what did students use in your FYI class for that kind of personality poster at the beginning of the semester?
So we did try doing, it was a presenter that came in before that talked about infographics, creating an infographic. We did it as a faculty workshop. So we tried that. It got a little sticky using that format for them. It's the first week of school and they're a little nervous. So we just used the general descriptions about an infographic. Like if you really valued something more, I wanted that picture to be bigger. Try to put in things that were more visually representing than text. So I think that a lot of them chose it in a whole bunch of different ways, which I was fine with. Sometimes they came in as a Word doc with the pictures all kind of just blobbed in there. And others did it in one of our features, where you could almost like collage on my phone. Like I could click a couple pictures and it makes an instant collage kind of deal. So there's definitely some photo options like that. So that was fine with me. It wasn't so much the format for them to get comfortable with, but the idea that they could represent themselves visually. And then we do talk a lot about looking at content online and what the author and source might be from, and how that visual representation of what's out there is helpful to kind of understand that what you're seeing visually might persuade you to see something in a certain light than something else.
So is that infogram that you had them use, Lindsay?
Yeah, and again, that was one of those things we tried, and we got a little stuck on it. I gave them the example using infogram. A few students definitely took off with it, and other students liked the aspect of being able to throw all the pictures kind of however they wanted. So either was fine, but we did try to talk about, what you're visually representing about yourself and how you want to be portrayed, how you want to be seeing pieces you want to share with someone else. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I've used in my Beatles course too, is, we use words all the time to describe music, which is difficult. And one time I played them a Beatles song and I said, include 3 images that come to mind when you listen to this song. And yeah, it's an interesting approach. Any advice you have for your fellow faculty, Lindsay?
I guess if you feel that there's an opportunity to do something different in your classroom, perhaps look at it from a technology standpoint or an information literacy standpoint, because for me, I think that's what the students ultimately need, no matter what career path they pick, is being able to navigate the internet world and realizing what's out there, either visually what they're seeing and the pieces of truth and fact or not that are coming at them, and how they can decipher and work out through that, or ways that they could put content out there to visually represent, or to, even in the video format, represent themselves or what they see. So if there is an opportunity in your classroom to modify some aspects, maybe look at it from a technology standpoint and realize that we could help the students develop tools that they could use later in life, or at least attempt to use those tools and see what works for them or not. And I do think looking at things from an inquiry standpoint, when we talk about looking at things of fact or not fact, is going to be important for especially our health science students, and being able to kind of dig through that information. But
Yeah, we appreciate the shout outs for information literacy. We've been talking a lot about digital literacy, but information literacy is also part of IDEAL. And Katie Beth is, of course, is a member of the cohort here, and she is our information literacy expert. So I'm glad that you included that in your presentation, Lindsay. And of course, Katie Beth is also our OER expert. So, good resource on hand here. Katie Beth is saying, maybe I'm not an expert, but she's a skilled individual.
a person that knows more than a little.
Yes.
Cool.
Katie Beth and I talk a lot about imposter syndrome. And anyway, we know a lot. We're not experts, but.
So I don't know if there's any, I know this is the end of your cohort and you've been bombarded. I don't know if you guys feel the way I felt on my first year, but felt like there was so much that it was like you didn't know where to start when you tried to eat the elephant. It was just a lot of information. And for me, I just kind of stuck my head in the sand, picked one item, tried it out. If it worked for me, I was like, great. Now I'm going to be the self-proclaimed expert in this one aspect. Yeah, Jenny, baby steps. One thing at a time, just one bite in your mouth, chew. That's what I have to tell my kids. I know you don't like it, just eat one bite at a time. So even with the students, just pick one thing, try it out. Again, the format for me is low risk in my class, where the content is the high risk part. So I want to see the content, and the format's the for fun stuff. And I think they enjoy the for fun stuff. So they are dabbling with it, and that's great. Or else it could be a very boring kinesiology class.
And that's actually a good segue to one thing I was going to mention. Next week, we have Jeffrey Lancaster, but after that, we want to spend the last couple weeks of this cohort asking members of the third cohort to share what tools and ideas they're going to try to incorporate next year in their teaching, or may have already begun to incorporate currently in their teaching. So cohort members, be aware of that. We are going to be asking you to provide ideas, and you're going to be the presenters starting in 2 weeks. So be prepared.
And just to be clear on that, we're not expecting anything complete. Just things you're messing around with, things you're interested in, things you're exploring with. It doesn't have to be like a finished anything.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to like do a Microsoft, or you don't have to do a Sway or a Spark or something to show what you're doing. If you just want to talk about, I'm considering using this tool for this class, for this assignment, that sort of thing, that's what we want. Now, if you have jumped in and you do have a presentation you want to share, that's great too, and you can always put that in the ideal Canvas page as well. But it's mainly going to be like discussing what tools you're considering using or have already begun to use. So
Well, thank you very much for letting me have an opportunity at least to share what I was doing and things I need to still work on. So
Thanks, Lindsay. It was great.
thank you very much, Lindsay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Lindsay.
Folks, that's all we've got for today. I'm sure
Thank you.
it's late Friday afternoon. We're all exhausted as usual. So I hope you have a nice Easter. And I will be putting around some information about Jeffrey Lancaster's talk to all faculty next week, and should be an interesting one. So until then, ta-ta.
bye, Paul.